Let's start with Roger, a 57-year-old guy from Las Vegas who decided the best hobby for a middle-aged man wasn't golf for woodworking, it was making ricin in his apartment. You know, ricin, the poison that's so deadly it's basically a war crime in powder form. Roger extracted ricin from castor beans using instructions he found. And I am not making this up. On the internet. The same internet where people argue about whether water is wet. That internet. He trusted it with biochemical weapon synthesis. Now, here's where it gets beautifully stupid. Roger didn't use his ricin for anything. He just had it, like a houseplant, except instead of needing water, it needed a hazmat team. He got caught because he passed out from an unrelated illness, and when paramedics found him unconscious, they also found his little ricin collection. Imagine being the amp who went from check his pulse to call the FBI in about 4 seconds. The FBI showed up in full hazmat suits. They evacuated the entire extended stay hotel. They found anarchist literature, castor beans, and enough ricin to theoretically kill hundreds of people. Roger's defense. He claimed he made it for personal protection. Sir, ricin is not pepper spray. You can't just sprinkle it on an attacker like fairy dust. The man genuinely seemed confused about why everyone was upset. He got 4 years in prison, which, considering he was sitting on enough poison to take out a small wedding reception, seems almost generous. The lesson, if your hobby requires a hazmat suit, it's not a hobby, it's a felony. Okay, this one is less about a single person and more about a movement of people who discovered thermite and collectively lost their minds. For those who slept through chemistry, thermite is a mixture that burns at approximately surface of the sun temperatures. It's used for welding railroad tracks. Reasonable people use it for industrial purposes. Reasonable people use it to try to destroy government property because they think license plates are tyranny. There have been multiple cases of self-proclaimed sovereign citizens, people who believe laws don't apply to them because of loopholes they read on forums, trying to use thermite against police, vehicles, IRS buildings, and in one case a random ATM machine. The beautiful irony. Thermite is actually really hard to use as a weapon. It burns straight down. It doesn't explode. It just sits there, melting through whatever's underneath it like the world's most aggressive candle. One genius in Texas tried to use thermite to destroy a police car and ended up just setting a small fire on the hood. The car was barely damaged. He was caught because security cameras recorded him awkwardly standing there, watching his devastating attack fizzle out like a sad birthday candle before running away. Another guy tried to mail thermite to a courthouse. Mail it, as if the postal service wouldn't notice a package spontaneously reaching 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The lesson, if your understanding of chemistry comes from YouTube videos with Linkin Park soundtracks, maybe don't commit crimes with it. So, here's a fun fact. Botulinum toxin, you know, Botox, is the most poisonous substance known to humanity. 1 gram could theoretically kill 1 million people. It's what makes your aunt's forehead suspiciously smooth, but in the wrong hands, it's apocalyptic. Now, most doctors who work with this stuff understand that it's, you know, incredibly dangerous. But every few years, someone with a medical degree and access to a lab decides to get creative. There have been cases of medical professionals attempting to culture botulinum toxin for research purposes that were actually thinly veiled attempts to create bioweapons. One case involved a physician who was trying to purify the toxin beyond medical-grade concentrations. When the FBI raided his home lab, yes, home lab, they found detailed notes on delivery methods, aerosolization techniques, and an Amazon wish list that included spray bottles and ventilation systems. Subtle. His defense was that he was conducting independent research on anti-terrorism measures. Sure, and I'm writing this script to understand criminal psychology, not because it's entertaining. The thing about botulinum toxin is that it's trackable. You can't just order the bacteria from the back of a magazine. Every culture is monitored. Every purchase is logged. Trying to weaponize Botox is like trying to rob a bank while live streaming. People are going to notice. He got 15 years and a lifetime ban from practicing medicine, which seems fair considering he tried to turn cosmetic procedures into war crimes. The lesson, if your research involves turning beauty products into bioweapons, you might be the bad guy. Heriberto was a 56-year-old man from New York who had a problem. His neighbors weren't allowed. Relatable, right? We've all been there. Normal people complain to the landlord, call the police, or invest in noise-canceling headphones. Heriberto, this man decided to build an electromagnetic weapon using magnetrons from microwave ovens. Yes, he disassembled multiple microwaves, extracted the magnetrons, the part that generates microwave radiation, and jury-rigged them into a device designed to blast his neighbors with electromagnetic energy through the walls. His plan was to make them sick. Just casually give them radiation poisoning because they watch TV too loud at 10 p.m. The beautiful part, it didn't really work. Magnetrons aren't directional without complex focusing equipment. He mostly just irradiated his own apartment and possibly gave himself the exact symptoms he was trying to inflict on others. He got caught because he told people about it. He bragged to a friend who immediately called the FBI because that's what you do when your buddy casually mentions he's weaponizing kitchen appliances. When agents searched his apartment, they found multiple modified microwaves, wiring diagrams, and evidence he'd been testing the device for months. He was charged with cyberstalking, yes, microwave attacks count, and weapon possession. The lesson, if your solution to noisy neighbors involves salvaged microwave parts, you've skipped several steps in the conflict resolution process. Okay, this one is almost impressively stupid. DiCarlo was a 28-year-old airport employee at LAX Los Angeles International Airport who discovered that if you put dry ice in a plastic bottle and seal it, pressure builds up until the bottle explodes. Mind-blowing science, truly. Literally every middle schooler knows this. But DiCarlo decided to take this groundbreaking discovery and put it to use in the most logical place, the airport where he worked. He made dry ice bombs and planted them in restricted areas of LAX. Multiple terminals had to be evacuated. Thousands of travelers were delayed. Bomb squads were called in. The entire airport went into panic mode. Why did he do it? Was it terrorism? Political statement? Revenge against his employer? Nope. He was just experimenting. He was bored at work. This man looked at one of the busiest airports in America and thought, you know what this needs? Exploding bottles of dry ice for fun. He was kamikaze, and this is the chef esquisse. Airport security cameras recorded and placed in the devices. At an airport, where there are cameras everywhere, watching everyone. Always. He was charged with possession of a destructive device in a public place and got 2 years in federal prison, where I assume he had plenty of time to conduct experiments on the relationship between stupid decisions and consequences. The lesson: if you work at an airport and think I should make bombs, you fundamentally misunderstood your job description. Okay, this last one is special because it involves two people who both thought weaponizing chemistry at a Pokémon tournament was a good idea. James and Kevin drove from Iowa to Boston for the Pokémon World Championships, already a red flag for their decision-making skills, with a car full of weapons, including a shotgun, an AR-15, several hundred rounds of ammunition, and the ingredients to make chlorine gas. Chlorine gas, the stuff used in World War I. They brought WW1 chemical weapons to a Pokémon event. They were caught because they posted threatening messages on social media about the tournament. And when police stopped their car, they found the weapons and the chemistry set of doom. Their defense: they were just protecting themselves, and the chlorine gas ingredients were coincidental, right? You accidentally brought bleach and ammonia in separate containers along with mixing equipment by pure chance. The best part is that they weren't even good at Pokémon. They didn't qualify for the main tournament. So they drove across the country with an arsenal and chemical weapon components to attend a tournament they weren't even competing in. They both got probation and banned from future events, which is probably the kindest outcome considering they brought literal war crimes to a children's game convention. The lesson: if your Pokémon strategy involves chlorine gas, you're playing the wrong game. So what have we learned today? That access to scientific knowledge doesn't automatically come with common sense. That the internet has made it terrifyingly easy to find instructions for things that should absolutely remain unknown. And that some people will look at a chemistry textbook and see not education, but a weapons catalog. The good news is that most of these homemade weapons don't work very well, and the people making them aren't exactly criminal masterminds. They get caught because they brag because they test their devices in stupid places, or because they genuinely don't understand that just experimenting isn't a legal defense. If you enjoyed watching me roast people who weaponize science, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories of people who had access to knowledge, but not wisdom. And maybe, just maybe, if you find yourself thinking I could make that into a weapon, consider instead, don't. I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe, stay legal, and for the love of everything, leave the chemistry experiments in the classroom.